The mahogany boardroom at Premier Capital had witnessed 1,000 deals, but none quite like the one about to unfold. I adjusted my blazer, feeling the weight of 15 years of sweat equity pressing against my shoulders as I prepared to ask the question that would change everything. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I had built this mortgage empire from the ground up, one late night and one closed deal at a time. But as I sat across from my boss, Marcus Sterling, watching his perfectly manicured fingers drum against the polished table, I knew this conversation would either secure my future or blow up everything I had worked for. What I didn't know was that his laughter would be the catalyst for the most satisfying business revenge story you'll ever hear. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The fluorescent lights in Marcus's corner office always made everything look slightly artificial, like a movie set designed to impress clients but never quite feeling real. I had been in this room hundreds of times over the past decade and a half, watching Marcus close deals, shake hands with investors, and take credit for strategies I had developed in my cramped cubicle down the hall. Premier Capital Mortgage had grown from a small regional lender to a nationwide powerhouse, and I had been the architect behind every major expansion, every innovative loan product, and every risk assessment model that kept us profitable while our competitors struggled. But today felt different. Today, I wasn't here to present another quarterly report or pitch another market expansion strategy. Today, I was here to claim what was rightfully mine. I had prepared for this moment for months, researching comparable equity packages at similar firms, documenting my contributions, and rehearsing my presentation until every word felt like a precision instrument. The leather portfolio in my hands contained 15 years of proof that I wasn't just another employee. I was the backbone of this company's success. Marcus looked up from his computer screen with that practiced smile that had charmed thousands of borrowers over the years. His salt and pepper hair was perfectly styled, his navy suit pressed to perfection, and his confidence radiated from every pore. He had built his reputation on being the face of Premier Capital, the smooth-talking CEO who could close any deal and charm any investor. But I knew the truth behind the facade. I knew who really ran the numbers, who really understood the market trends, and who really made the decisions that kept this company afloat. "Sarah, my star performer," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his massive oak desk. "What can I do for you today? Another brilliant strategy to revolutionize the mortgage industry?" His tone was jovial, almost paternal, the way he always spoke to me when other people were around. It was the voice of someone who genuinely believed he was doing me a favor by letting me work in his company, as if my contributions were cute little projects rather than the foundation of his empire. I settled into the chair, placing my portfolio carefully on the desk between us. "Marcus, I want to talk about equity. I think it's time we discussed giving me a real stake in the company I've helped build." The words came out steady and clear, exactly as I had practiced them. I had anticipated his possible responses, prepared for his objections, and armed myself with compelling arguments about my value to the organization. The silence that followed lasted exactly 4 seconds. I know because I counted them. Then Marcus Sterling threw back his head and laughed. Not a polite chuckle or a nervous giggle, but a full-throated, belly-deep laugh that seemed to echo off the windows overlooking the city skyline. He laughed so hard that he had to wipe tears from his eyes with his silk handkerchief, the same one he used to clean his reading glasses during board meetings. "Oh, Sarah," he gasped between fits of laughter. "That's rich. Really, that's good. You want equity? In my company?" He stood up and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back in that pose he struck whenever he wanted to appear thoughtful and magnanimous. "Let me explain something to you, sweetheart. This isn't a charity. This is a business. I built this company from nothing. I took the risks. I signed the personal guarantees, and I'm the one whose name is on the door." The condescension in his voice hit me like a physical blow. "Sweetheart, in all my years of generating millions in revenue for this company, of working 18-hour days to close impossible deals, of saving us from market downturns with my innovative strategies, I was still just sweetheart to him." I felt my jaw clench, but I kept my expression neutral. I had expected resistance, but not outright mockery. "Marcus," I said, keeping my voice level. I've been with Premier Capital for 15 years. I've personally originated over $200 million in loans. I developed the risk assessment algorithms that reduced our default rate by 30%. I created the refinancing program that captured market share during the rate drops. My strategies have directly contributed to— Yes, yes, he interrupted, waving his hand dismissively as he turned back to face me. You're a very good employee, Sarah. One of the best I've ever had, but that's exactly what you are, an employee. You execute the vision that I create. You follow the strategies that I approve. You work within the framework that I've built. Equity is for owners, for visionaries, for people who have skin in the game from day one. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. I opened my portfolio and slid a document across the desk toward him. It was a comprehensive analysis I had prepared, showing the direct correlation between my initiatives and the company's growth trajectory. Charts and graphs illustrated how our revenue had spiked after each of my major contributions, how our market position had strengthened following my recommendations, and how our profit margins had improved under strategies I had developed. Marcus glanced at the document for about 10 seconds before pushing it back toward me. Sarah, I appreciate the effort you put into this little presentation, but you're missing the fundamental point here. I don't owe you anything beyond your salary and benefits, which, I might add, are quite generous. You've been compensated fairly for your work. If you wanted equity, you should have started your own company. That's when something clicked inside me. Not anger, exactly, but a cold, crystalline clarity that cut through 15 years of accumulated frustration and overlooked contributions. Marcus Sterling had just told me exactly what I needed to do. He had handed me the blueprint for my revenge without even realizing it. If he thought I was just a good employee following his vision, he was about to learn how wrong he could be. You know what, Marcus? I said, standing up and closing my portfolio with deliberate precision. You're absolutely right. If I want equity, I should start my own company. Or better yet, I should buy one that already exists. I tucked the portfolio under my arm and headed toward the door, but paused with my hand on the handle. Thanks for the clarity. This conversation has been incredibly enlightening. As I walked out of his office, I heard him call after me, Sarah, don't be dramatic. We can discuss a small bonus if you're feeling undervalued. But I didn't turn around. I had work to do, and for the first time in 15 years, it was going to be work that truly mattered. Work that would serve my interests, not his. The elevator ride down to the parking garage gave me 3 minutes to process what had just happened. 15 years of loyalty. 15 years of building someone else's dream. 15 years of watching Marcus take credit for my innovations while I stayed in the shadows, grateful for a steady paycheck and the occasional pat on the head. But as the elevator doors opened and I walked toward my car, I realized that Marcus had just done me the biggest favor of my professional life. He had shown me exactly who he was and exactly what he thought of me. Now it was time to show him exactly who I was. That evening, I sat in my home office surrounded by financial documents, industry reports, and my laptop screen glowing with mortgage company listings. I had been thinking about this moment for years, accumulating knowledge and contacts, building relationships throughout the industry, and quietly observing the vulnerabilities in various market players. Marcus thought I was just a good employee, but what he didn't know was that I had been preparing for this opportunity my entire career. I pulled up the financial records of Sterling Mortgage Solutions, a smaller competitor that Marcus had been trying to acquire for months. They had a solid customer base, good market position, and most importantly, they were struggling with cash flow issues that made them vulnerable to the right buyer. Marcus had been negotiating with them for 6 months, but his arrogance and lowball offers had stalled the deal. He assumed they would eventually cave to his terms because he couldn't imagine anyone else making a competitive offer. But Marcus had made one crucial mistake. During all those late nights when I was working on his acquisition strategies, when I was analyzing target companies and developing integration plans, I had been building my own network of industry contacts. I knew the owners of Sterling Mortgage Solutions personally. I had worked with them on several intercompany deals over the years, and they respected my expertise and integrity. More importantly, they knew the difference between my work and Marcus's bluster. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I had memorized months ago. When Tom Brennan, the owner of Sterling Mortgage Solutions, answered, I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. He had been dealing with Marcus's negotiations for half a year, and it was clearly wearing on him. Tom, it's Sarah Mitchell from Premier Capital. I hope I'm not calling too late. I kept my tone professional but warm, the way I had learned to navigate these industry relationships over the years. Sarah, no, not at all. It's good to hear from you. How are things at Premier? He sounded genuinely pleased to hear from me, which was exactly what I had hoped for. Actually, Tom, that's why I'm calling. I'm exploring some new opportunities, and I wanted to discuss something with you. I know you've been in negotiations with Marcus about a potential acquisition, but I'm wondering if you might be interested in exploring an alternative arrangement. Would you be available for lunch tomorrow? I have a proposition that might interest you. The pause on the other end of the line lasted just long enough for me to wonder if I had overplayed my hand. Then Tom's voice came back, curious and cautious, but definitely intrigued. Sarah, are you saying what I think you're saying? Because if you are, then yes, I'm very interested in that conversation. As I hung up the phone, I felt a surge of adrenaline that I hadn't experienced in years. For the first time since I had started working at Premier Capital, I wasn't executing someone else's vision or following someone else's strategy. I was creating my own path, building my own future, and taking control of my own destiny. Marcus Sterling had laughed at my request for equity in his company, but he was about to learn that sometimes the best revenge is building something better than what you left behind. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm, energized by the possibilities ahead. I had spent 15 years learning every aspect of the mortgage business, building relationships throughout the industry, and developing the skills necessary to run a successful financial services company. Marcus had trained me well, better than he realized, and now I was going to use that training against him. I dressed carefully for my lunch meeting with Tom, choosing a professional but approachable outfit that would convey confidence without arrogance. As I drove to the restaurant, I thought about all the times Marcus had dismissed my ideas in meetings, all the times he had taken credit for my work in front of clients, and all the times he had treated me like a helpful assistant, rather than the strategic mind behind his success. Today, all of that was going to change. The restaurant Tom had chosen was quiet and discreet, the kind of place where business deals were made over handshakes and gentlemen's agreements. When I arrived, he was already seated at a corner table, looking nervous but hopeful. Tom Brennan was in his early 60s, a straight-talking businessman who had built Sterling Mortgage Solutions from scratch over 20 years ago. He was exactly the kind of person I respected, someone who understood the value of hard work and treated people with dignity. Sarah, he said, standing up to shake my hand. I have to admit, your call last night has me curious. And frankly, after 6 months of dealing with Marcus Sterling's negotiation tactics, I'm ready to hear some fresh ideas. As we settled into our seats and ordered lunch, I could see the hope in Tom's eyes, mixed with the weariness of someone who had been fighting to save his life's work. Sterling Mortgage Solutions wasn't failing, but the market pressures and regulatory changes of recent years had put them in a tight spot. They needed capital and strategic leadership, and Marcus had been trying to exploit their vulnerability to get the company at a fraction of its true value. Tom, I'm going to be direct with you, I began, leaning forward slightly to convey the seriousness of my proposition. I know exactly what Marcus has been offering you, and I know why you've been hesitant to accept. He's trying to buy your company for pennies on the dollar and gut everything that makes it special. I have a different idea. I opened my briefcase and pulled out a detailed business plan I had been working on for months, long before my conversation with Marcus the day before. It outlined a partnership structure that would allow Tom to maintain ownership and control while bringing in the capital and expertise necessary to expand operations and capture new market opportunities. Instead of selling to Marcus, what if we joined forces? I bring my industry knowledge, my client relationships, and my strategic expertise. You bring your established business, your loyal customer base, and your operational infrastructure. Together we build something that neither of us could create alone. Tom's eyes widened as he flipped through the business plan, his expression shifting from cautious interest to genuine excitement. The numbers I had run showed potential revenue growth of 40% within 2 years, market expansion into 3 new states, and profit margins that would make Sterling Mortgage Solutions one of the most successful regional lenders in the country. Sarah, this is impressive, really impressive. But I have to ask, why are you leaving Premier Capital? Marcus has always spoken very highly of you. He's told me more than once that you're one of his most valuable employees. I smiled, thinking about Marcus's laughter from the day before, his dismissive wave, and his condescending sweetheart. Let's just say that Marcus and I have different visions for my future in the mortgage industry. He sees me as a good employee. I see myself as a business owner. Yesterday, he made it very clear that Premier Capital isn't the place for me to achieve that goal. Tom nodded slowly, understanding flickering in his eyes. He had been in business long enough to recognize the signs of someone who had outgrown their current situation. And you think Sterling Mortgage Solutions could be that place? I think Sterling Mortgage Solutions could be the foundation for something much bigger than either of us has imagined. But only if we work together as true partners, not as buyer and seller. I closed the business plan and met his eyes directly. Tom, I'm not asking you to take a leap of faith based on promises. I'm asking you to consider a partnership based on proven results and shared vision. The lunch stretched into the afternoon as we discussed details, explored possibilities, and began to sketch out the framework of what would become the most successful business partnership of both our careers. By the time we shook hands in the parking lot, we had agreed on the basic structure of our deal, and I had committed to providing the initial capital injection that would allow us to move forward immediately. As I drove home that evening, I realized that Marcus Sterling had given me the greatest gift of my professional life. His laughter, his dismissal, and his arrogance had freed me from the illusion that I needed his approval or his company to succeed. I had spent 15 years building his empire, and now I was going to use everything I had learned to build something that would eclipse everything he had ever achieved. The irony wasn't lost on me. Marcus had refused to give me equity in the company I had helped build, so I was going to build a company that would make his equity worthless. He had laughed at my ambition, so I was going to show him exactly what ambitious really looked like. He had treated me like an employee, so I was going to become his competitor. That night, I called my lawyer and began the process of formalizing my partnership with Tom Brennan. Within a week, we would have all the paperwork in place. Within a month, we would be operational under our new structure. Within 6 months, Marcus Sterling would understand exactly what kind of mistake he had made when he laughed at Sarah Mitchell's request for equity. The contract signing with Tom Brennan took place on a crisp Thursday morning in his conference room, surrounded by the kind of mahogany and leather that spoke of old-school business values. As I signed my name on the partnership agreement, I felt the weight of 15 years of preparation culminating in this single moment. Sterling Mitchell Mortgage Solutions was officially born, and with it, my transformation from employee to owner was complete. Tom looked across the table at me with a mixture of relief and excitement, finally free from Marcus's predatory negotiations and ready to build something extraordinary together. Within hours of our partnership becoming official, I made my first strategic move. I had spent the previous week quietly reaching out to 3 of Premier Capital's biggest clients, companies I had personally serviced for over a decade. These weren't just any clients. They were the cornerstone accounts that generated nearly 30% of Marcus's annual revenue. I knew their needs, their pain points, and their frustrations with Premier Capital's increasingly impersonal service model. More importantly, they knew me and trusted my expertise. The first call was to Jennifer Walsh, CEO of Riverside Development Group, a commercial real estate company that had been working with Premier Capital for 8 years. I had personally structured over $50 million in construction loans for her projects, often working weekends and holidays to meet her tight deadlines. When I called her from my new office at Sterling Mitchell, her response was immediate and enthusiastic. Sarah, I can't tell you how relieved I am to hear from you. Marcus's team has been treating us like just another number since you stopped handling our account directly. The new loan officer doesn't understand our business model, and frankly, we've been considering taking our business elsewhere anyway. When can we meet to discuss transitioning our portfolio to your new company? The second call was even more satisfying. Robert Chen, founder of Pacific Coast Properties, had been one of my earliest major clients. I had helped him secure his first significant acquisition loan when he was just starting out. and over the years, we had built a relationship based on mutual respect and shared success. His company now managed over $300 million in commercial properties, all financed through loans I had originated at Premier Capital. "Sarah, this is the best news I've heard all month," Robert said when I explained my new venture. "To be honest, I've been frustrated with Premier Capital's service lately. Ever since you moved into that strategic role, the personal touch has been missing. Marcus's people treat us like we should be grateful for their business, when really, they should be grateful for ours. I'd like to move our entire portfolio to Sterling Mitchell as soon as possible." By the end of my first week as a business owner, I had secured commitments from clients representing over $120 million in annual loan volume. These weren't new clients I had to win over with presentations and proposals. These were established relationships built on years of exceptional service and proven results. They were following me not because of competitive rates or fancy marketing campaigns, but because they trusted my judgment and valued our professional relationship. The real beauty of the situation was that Marcus had no idea what was happening. He was still in his corner office, probably congratulating himself on dodging the bullet of giving me equity, completely unaware that his company's foundation was quietly shifting beneath him. I had learned from years of watching him operate that information was power, and right now, I held all the cards while he remained blissfully ignorant of the game being played. Tom and I spent our second week developing an accelerated onboarding process for our new clients. His operational team was excellent, and they embraced the challenge of scaling up quickly to accommodate our rapid growth. We hired 2 new loan officers, both of whom I had worked with at industry conferences and knew to be top performers. We upgraded our technology systems, expanded our credit lines with multiple banks, and established the infrastructure necessary to handle our projected volume increase. The third week brought our first major test. Riverside Development Group needed a complex bridge loan for a mixed-use project that had tight timing requirements and unique structural challenges. It was exactly the kind of deal that required creative thinking and deep industry knowledge, the kind of deal I had been handling for Marcus for over a decade. The loan amount was $12 million, with a 6-month timeline and unconventional collateral arrangements. At Premier Capital, this deal would have required multiple committee meetings, extensive documentation, and weeks of back-and-forth negotiations. Marcus would have inserted himself into every decision, second-guessing my recommendations and slowing down the process with his need to appear involved and knowledgeable. At Sterling Mitchell, I was able to structure the entire deal in 3 days, get approval from our lending partners in 24 hours, and have funds ready for disbursement within a week of the initial application. Jennifer Walsh called me the day after closing to express her amazement at our efficiency. "Sarah, I've never seen anything like this. At Premier Capital, this same deal would have taken 6 weeks minimum, and Marcus would have found 3 reasons to complicate the terms. You've just shown me what professional mortgage services actually look like when they're not filtered through ego and bureaucracy." Word of our success began spreading through the commercial real estate community faster than I had anticipated. The mortgage industry is surprisingly small, especially at the high-end commercial level, and news of exceptional service travels quickly among developers and property managers. By our 4th week in operation, I was fielding calls from potential clients I had never worked with before, people who had heard about our rapid turnaround times and personalized service approach. That's when Marcus finally realized something was wrong. I learned about his discovery from Maria Santos, my former assistant at Premier Capital, who called me on a Friday afternoon with barely concealed glee in her voice. Maria had been watching the fallout from my departure with keen interest, and she was more than happy to share the office gossip. "Sarah, you should have seen Marcus's face when he realized what was happening," Maria whispered into the phone, clearly calling from her desk where she could be overheard. "He got the monthly client retention report yesterday, and when he saw that Riverside Development, Pacific Coast Properties, and North Shore Investment Group had all closed their accounts, he went completely pale. Then he started making frantic phone calls trying to figure out where they went. I felt a surge of satisfaction that was both professional and deeply personal. Marcus had spent so many years taking credit for my relationships with these clients, presenting himself as the key contact and primary relationship manager. Now he was discovering that those relationships had never really been his to begin with. The clients had been loyal to Premier Capital because of me, not because of him, and without me, there was no reason for that loyalty to continue. "Did he figure out where they went?" I asked. though I already knew the answer would be delicious. Oh, he figured it out all right. Jennifer Walsh's assistant told our receptionist exactly where they were moving their business and why. Marcus spent the entire afternoon locked in his office making phone calls, and I heard him yelling at someone about non-compete clauses and client poaching. His lawyer must have told him he didn't have a case, because he came out looking like someone had punched him in the stomach. The non-compete angle was particularly amusing to me. Marcus had been so confident in his position of power that he had never required me to sign a non-compete agreement. In his mind, I was just a good employee, who would never have the courage or capability to strike out on my own. The idea that I might become a competitor had never even occurred to him, which meant I was completely free to compete for any clients, in any market, using any strategies I chose. By the end of our first month, Sterling Mitchell Mortgage Solutions had originated over $40 million in new loans, hired 6 additional staff members, and established credit facilities with 4 major banks. Our success was unprecedented for a startup in the mortgage industry, but it wasn't really a startup. It was the culmination of 15 years of relationship building, industry knowledge, and strategic planning finally unleashed from corporate constraints. The industry recognition came quickly. Mortgage Banking magazine featured us in their Companies to Watch section, highlighting our innovative approach to commercial lending and our rapid market penetration. The article quoted several of our clients praising our personalized service and technical expertise, with Jennifer Walsh specifically mentioning how our streamlined processes had saved her company both time and money on recent projects. More importantly, the article caught the attention of other industry players who were impressed by our growth trajectory and interested in potential partnerships. Within days of the magazine hitting newsstands, I received calls from 3 major institutional investors interested in providing additional capital for expansion, 2 regional banks looking to establish referral relationships, and a prominent industry consultant who wanted to study our business model for a case study on mortgage industry innovation. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me. Marcus had refused to give me equity in the company I had helped build, claiming I was just a good employee who executed his vision. Now, less than 2 months after leaving Premier Capital, I was being courted by investors who valued my company at more than Marcus's 15-year-old firm. The vision he claimed was his had actually been mine all along, and when freed from his limitations and ego, that vision was proving to be more powerful than even I had imagined. The real turning point came during our 2nd month of operation, when Robert Chen called with news that would change everything. His company, Pacific Coast Properties, had been selected to manage a major urban redevelopment project that would require over $200 million in construction financing over 3 years. It was the kind of mega project that could define a mortgage company's reputation and establish its position in the market permanently. "Sarah, I want Sterling Mitchell to be the primary lender on this project," Robert said during our lunch meeting at the downtown club where we had celebrated so many successful deals over the years. "But I need to know you can handle the volume and complexity. This isn't just about the money, it's about having a partner who understands the vision and can adapt to changing requirements throughout the development process." I looked across the table at this man who had trusted me with his first major deal years ago, when I was just another loan officer at Premier Capital. Now he was offering me the opportunity to establish my company as a major player in the commercial mortgage industry. The project he was describing would generate more revenue in 3 years than most mortgage companies saw in a decade. "Robert, we can absolutely handle this project. But more than that, we can bring value that goes beyond just providing capital. Tom and I have been developing a comprehensive project management approach that integrates financing, risk assessment, and development consulting. We're not just your lenders. We're your strategic partners in making this vision a reality." As we shook hands on the preliminary agreement, I realized that Marcus Sterling had inadvertently created his most dangerous competitor. By refusing to recognize my value and dismissing my ambitions, he had motivated me to build something that would challenge his market dominance and eventually surpass his company in both size and reputation. His laughter had been the catalyst for his own downfall, and he still didn't fully understand what was happening. The following week brought news that made everything worthwhile. Maria called again, this time with information that was almost too good to believe. Premier Capital had lost 3 more major clients. Their stock price had dropped by 15%, following a quarterly report that showed declining loan originations, and Marcus had been forced to lay off 8 employees to maintain profitability. "Sarah, the whole office is talking about how different things are without you," Maria said. "The new loan officers can't handle the complex deals the way you used to, and Marcus keeps having to get involved in transactions he doesn't really understand. Last week, he lost a $20 million deal because he couldn't answer basic questions about the debt service coverage requirements. The client actually said they wished they could work with someone who knew what they were talking about. The final piece of information was the most satisfying. Marcus had apparently reached out to several former clients trying to convince them to return to Premier Capital, offering reduced rates and improved terms. But according to Maria, none of them were interested. They had found something at Sterling Mitchell that they couldn't get at Premier Capital: competent service from people who respected their business and understood their needs. 6 months after that laughable conversation in Marcus's office, Sterling Mitchell Mortgage Solutions had originated over $300 million in loans, employed 23 people, and established partnerships with major developers throughout the region. We had been featured in 3 industry publications, received inquiries from potential acquirers, offering valuations that exceeded Premier Capital's market capitalization, and built a reputation for excellence that was attracting clients from across the country. Tom and I celebrated our 6-month anniversary by signing the lease on a new headquarters building, a modern glass structure that would house our expanded operations and provide room for continued growth. As we stood in the empty executive conference room looking out at the city skyline, Tom turned to me with a smile that captured everything we had accomplished together. "Sarah, I have to ask you something. When you first called me about this partnership, did you know it would work out this well? Did you have any idea we would grow this fast and this successfully?" I thought about his question for a moment, remembering that conversation with Marcus when he had laughed at my request for equity. "Tom, I knew we had the potential to be successful because I knew what I was capable of when I wasn't limited by someone else's vision. But honestly, even I'm surprised by how quickly everything has come together. It turns out that 15 years of building someone else's company was the perfect preparation for building my own." As we walked through our new building, planning office layouts and discussing expansion strategies, I reflected on how dramatically my life had changed since that humiliating moment in Marcus's office. He had laughed at my ambition and dismissed my contributions, never imagining that his arrogance would motivate me to build something that would eclipse his achievements and prove my worth in the most definitive way possible. The best part wasn't the financial success or the industry recognition, though both were deeply satisfying. The best part was the knowledge that I had created something meaningful, something that provided real value to our clients and meaningful careers for our employees. Marcus had built a company designed to feed his ego and maximize his personal profit. I had built a company designed to serve our clients' needs and create long-term relationships based on trust and competence. That evening, as I sat in my new office reviewing our quarterly projections, I received a text message that made me smile. It was from Jennifer Walsh, thanking me again for our exceptional service on her latest project and mentioning that she had recommended Sterling Mitchell to 2 other major developers. The personal satisfaction of that simple message was worth more than all the equity Marcus had refused to give me at Premier Capital. I had proven that his laughter was misplaced, his assessment of my capabilities was wrong, and his belief in his own indispensability was nothing more than delusion. Most importantly, I had proven to myself that I didn't need his approval, his company, or his permission to achieve everything I had dreamed of accomplishing. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's building something so much better that the comparison speaks for itself. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.